Hi everybody, and welcome to Observing with Webb, where a high school astronomy teacher tells you what you're looking at, what you should check out later this month, and why it's so cool. Don't forget to check out my Podbean page at mrwebb.podbean.com, my YouTube channel and Twitter feed as well, Mr. Webb PV, and you can also get this as a podcast on Stitcher and iTunes every month. So welcome to November of 2018. So what do we have going on for the month? Well, Venus is going to switch over to a morning star, and a brilliant one at that. Mars is going to dominate the evening sky in general. Saturn tries to stay visible for another month, and the Leonids, that meteor shower, is going to try to break through the gibbous moonlight and give us a good show. But also the moon will pass by Mars and Saturn. So without any further ado, let's start talking about the planets that we can see. All right, if you take a look up at the screen, we have us facing pretty much the south and around sunset at the beginning of the month. Now, what you will notice is, yes, Mercury and Jupiter are down there, but ignore them. Mercury and Jupiter will be too close to the sun and moving too close toward the sun throughout the month. So just forget about Jupiter and Mercury for November. So just forget. What we have left is Saturn and Mars. Now, let's move time a little bit further. Let's get the sun set a little bit. All right, there we go. So 6 p.m. Standard time. And right there, Saturn is going to be up in the sky. It's going to be in the southwest pretty much every night. Every night. And what happens, though, throughout the month is it dives lower and lower in the sky. Let me show you what I mean. So if we're looking at Sagittarius here, we're at 6 p.m. Let's go through the month. Okay? And you'll notice that Saturn gets lower and lower in the sky. Okay? So by the end of the month, now sunset changes, so let me go back to sunset. Saturn is still high in the sky, but it's still low once it actually gets dark. So this is really your last chance to see Saturn. So what you really want to do is go out there and grab your telescope or your binoculars so you can see the rings of Saturn, which if you have a Hubble telescope, well, you can get something that looks like that. Pretty amazing. But this is your last chance to see Saturn, so get out there. The earlier in the month, the better. Now, there was another planet up there, and that's Mars. Mars is going to be up in the south around sunset. And let me go back to the beginning of the month. And you'll see that Mars is in Capricorn, off in the south. And what you'll notice is throughout the month, it's going to move from Capricorn to Aquarius by the end of the month. Now, what does that mean for you for observing it? Well, it's absolutely gorgeous. It's bright. It's red, kind of like a fire-looking color, and it's just great to look at. It just is different than all of the other stars, and it's pretty high up there for everyone to see. You can try to check it out through the telescope, but you probably won't see much. Definitely nothing compared to Saturn or Jupiter. In fact, if I zoom in, this might be what you see in the telescope. Really not much. You have to get an imaging system to really see a whole lot of what's going on there. But anyway, there's Saturn and Mars. Those are our sunset planets. And like I said, Mars will be up throughout most of the night. So if I fast forward, there you go, it's starting to set. And it's going to set around 11:30 pretty much every night of the month. So then after that, you're looking at a planetless sky. In fact, let me look to the east, because that's where the next set of planets might come up if we see them. So I got to fast forward. Let's see. It's about 11:30. Let's go to 12:30, 1:30, 2:30, 3:30. Oh, hey, there's Venus. All right. Let's go back to the beginning of the month again and take a look at Venus's trek this month. So if I go to sunrise, 6:33 in the morning, on November 1st, Venus is just barely poking above the horizon there. Depends on your horizon. But it's really not that far away. But watch what happens as the month goes by. November 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th. You see it gets higher and higher as the month goes by. So it's going to get pretty bright compared to its surroundings, and it's just quite a remarkable thing to see. It's very, very bright compared to everything else. It'll be the last thing that fades from view in the morning. And if you have binoculars or a telescope, check this out. Take those binoculars or that telescope out and zoom in on Venus. Now, in the beginning of the month, you have to be careful not to get the sun, but you'll notice that it is a very, very thin crescent right there. Very thin crescent, but it's almost twice as big as Jupiter in the telescope there. Jupiter would be only about this big, about half that size, maybe a little bigger than half. But then watch what happens throughout the month, okay? You notice that it gets a little bit smaller, but there's more of the surface of Venus that's being seen. So it actually gets brighter throughout the month. And by November 30th, you get a beautiful crescent there in your telescope. Now, again, it has to be in the telescope because, well, it's just that small. Now, let me go end of the month. Let's look at like 5 in the morning. You notice that you can get a real dark sky around it, get a beautiful crescent in Venus. Now, you probably won't see this surface detail here, okay? Maybe you will, maybe you won't, but yes, go find Venus. This is a wonderful month if you can get up in the morning to see it.
And a bunch of other stuff.
All right, let's talk about the events for the month. We're not going to track the moon completely. However, one of the first good things is that the first week is when the new moon happens on the 7th, which means you have the darkest skies right around the 7th of November. And then the first real close encounter happens on November 11th. Now, on November 11th, if you look to the southwest, you will see Sagittarius, the moon, and Saturn all together. Pretty cool. Now, the moon's going to be about 3 degrees away from Saturn, Saturn being to the lower right, and it's just going to be very, very neat to see the ringed planet and the moon together. In fact, I think this crescent might be enough that you can see the Earth shine, which is the light that hits the Earth, goes from the sun, hits the Earth, bounces off the Earth, hits this dark part of the moon, and then bounces back to our eyes. So you can actually see part of the surface of the moon. Anyway, so there's Saturn and the moon on November 11th, a really good picture possibility there. And then let's go from the 11th to the 15th. Now, the 15th has 2 things going for it. Number one, it is the first quarter moon, visible until midnight. But the second thing is it's really close to Mars. Now, if we zoom in a little bit, you'll see that Mars is about, again, 3 degrees away, up and to the left. And then there's this bright Iota Aquarii? I don't know. I can't know everything here. But it's actually, it looks bigger and brighter on here, but it's actually a magnitude 4, whereas this is a magnitude of negative 0.31, which is brighter. Just trust me on the numbers. But anyway, yeah, there you go. So the moon and Mars on the 15th. The 17th will be the Leonid meteor shower, and as you can see, you have a gibbous moon that's not going to set until, let's find out, oh boy, it's still up there, still polluting the skies with some light. It's about 1:30 in the morning. So we'll go out there anyway. Even if the moon's out, you might be able to catch 1 or 2 in an hour or maybe a half hour, but it's usually around 15 per hour for the Leonid meteor shower. So my suggestion is to go out in the morning. Let's say you get out there at like 4:30 in the morning. People think I'm crazy, but hey, you know. And the meteors will appear to be coming from Leo. That's why they're called Leonids. So you really want to take a look at the entire sky as a whole. In fact, lying down on something insulated will help you out. All right, and then really that's it until the 23rd when we have the full moon and the last quarter moon on the 30th. And that's it for the events for November. Let me get into the constellations.
Are there patterns in our skies? Are patterns only in our eyes?
far as constellations go, we have a couple options here. I'm going to go to the middle of the month, and I'm going to go to, well, let's go to after dinner first. So let's see, let's go a little bit after sunset. Let's go to about 6:30, okay? Around 6:30, you're looking at Pegasus and Andromeda being pretty high in the sky. Pegasus is the great big square. You're looking for 4 bright stars that make an almost perfect square in the sky. Then you've got Andromeda off to the left with that sort of cornucopia shape, that curve, those 2 curves sort of parallel with each other. And you might even be able to see the faint fuzz of the Andromeda galaxy, which I don't have up here right now. But let's say you wait a little bit till right before bed. Let's say you go to bed around 9:30. Well, Andromeda will still be up there. Let me zoom in a little differently here. Andromeda will still be up there, and then you've got Perseus over here, which is kind of a similar shape to Andromeda, but it points down and it sort of pours down into the Pleiades here, which is a beautiful collection of stars. You can count about 5 to 7 of them with your naked eye. You've got Triangulum here, which is just 3 stars that make a triangle. How creative is that? And also Aries the ram. I don't know why that looks like a ram. Maybe that's just the ram horn, but it looks like a walking stick to me. But anyway, those are up there before dinner. And you start seeing, oh, look, there off in the east are Taurus and Orion and some of the other constellations in the winter. Now let me go to when I get up for work. Well, maybe not me, but some people. Let's go to about 4:30 in the morning. No, some people are less crazy. Let's do 5:30 in the morning. You start seeing the sun starting to rise, but you should still see Orion off there in the southwest. Really bright vertical bow tie in the sky. And also Leo the lion up here in the south. Very high up, backwards question mark with the right triangle next to it. It's just absolutely beautiful. So anyway, I hope you have a very clear, dark sky for the month of November.